right. We are returned to open session. At this time, is there any public comment?
Yes, there is.
Ah. Okay, we have Glenn Klecka.
Glenn Klecka, 3640 McCormick, Brookfield, Hollywood, Illinois, 605-13-1616, phone number 708-485-1213. You have my Gmail. I wanted to thank the superintendent and the Hollywood Community Association for getting together for their hour discussion of talking about the use of the Hollywood Community House and that. It was nice to read it in the Landmark. I want to thank the Landmark for their efforts in reporting what was going on and what has transpired. I'm looking forward to hearing what the results will be of this. I attended my 50-year reunion at Riverside Brookfield High School and met the principal at RB High School. He would be very much interested in meeting with you, also to see what parking could be obtained along Hollywood Avenue or land-wise or parking, whatever. He's a brand new principal there. This is his first year. He's very energetic. He would be happy to meet with you and discuss things with you. He's also interested if you would like to use the stadium property for playground or whatever. He says that sounds like an excellent idea, that the two of them to get together, because the kids from Hollywood usually end up going to RB. He thought that was a real good idea. So I'm just saying that there is an open line of communication there if you need it. I don't know what your comments have been with the zoo. I haven't heard any reports in the Landmark with the zoo or that. Anxious to hear how that is transpiring. I tried to find how your plans are. I attended your sponsored 90 Fest at Hollywood School. It was a rainy night or whatever, but it was a great opportunity to view the school. The students gave wonderful tours of the building. They were very energetic and took you through the entire building, describing classes and their teachers and everything. It was nice. I got to see my mother's name in many of the PTA books that were out, all the artifacts that were out. That was where I did see the one on the loop of the drawing of what you intend to do with the multi-purpose room. I'm just curious if you ever thought of putting the multi-purpose room in the front of the building instead of the backside in the parking lot. You could extend it all the way out to the same distance as the gym, leaving a courtyard between the two with just a walkway connecting to the old building. And if you made it 2 stories high, you could have additional classroom space. And if you put a greenhouse or a green roof on top, like they have done with many new buildings downtown, the technology is there, you'd still have green space available for, I know you're looking to have a garden at the Hollywood School or whatever. So I want to thank you for your discussions together with the Hollywood Community Association and hope things continue with cooperation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Klecka. Is there any additional public comment?
I have a brief comment. My name is
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
My name is Ann Lee, and I'm speaking on behalf of the League of Women Voters. We're here to voice our concern about the potential for dangerous consequences of 2 Illinois Association of School Board resolutions recommended for adoption at their November meeting. We urge the school board to instruct your delegate to vote no on both Resolution 1 and Resolution 3. Resolution 1 would provide local school boards the option to decide if they will allow for properly trained staff to be armed in school buildings. Resolution 3 would establish school safety grants so school districts can hire school resource officers who may carry a firearm. Both of these would serve to bring guns into our schools. There's no evidence that showing that arming personnel within a school increases school safety. In fact, this assertion is contrary to conclusions in a 2015 New England Journal of Medicine evidence-based peer-reviewed study. We cannot risk bringing firearms into our schools. We should be working to keep guns out of our schools. And I did bring some fact sheets that I'll hand to Margie for dispersion. We ask that you insist that IASB recommendations in the future be based on evidence-based peer-reviewed studies. And thank you very much for this opportunity to comment.
Is there any additional public comment? Okay. We will move on. At this time, are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
Nope.
Okay, the next item then is the Superintendent's Report.
All right, and I have the privilege of starting that by introducing Mr. Todd Gierman and a group of students from Ames.
Good evening, District 96 Board of Education, and good evening, Superintendent Dr. Martha Ryan Toy. Very happy to be here this evening. I'm also happy that we finally got the microphone at the right height. This is good. This is good. Finally got it going good. I'm most happy that I brought some special guests with me this evening, and that is my 5th grade teacher over at Ames Elementary School, Mr. David Becker. And along with him, we have some of our 5th grade students that are joining us. We have Fallon Cassiano, why don't you come over here? This is Fallon over here. Why don't you go stand next to Mr. Becker? Fallon Cassiano. We have Melody Guzman. There's Melody right there. We also have Sophia Jimenez. Sophia, come on out. And we have Liam Wallace. And our 5th grade students and Mr. Becker are going to share with us a little bit about their tower garden and biodomes at Ames Elementary School. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our stars this evening.
Thank you, everyone, for letting us be here tonight. We're super excited to give you a little glimpse into what's going on in a 5th grade classroom at Ames. And you guys ready? Yeah. All right, so we can kind of move, and we kind of have 2 audiences. And then we have to pass the microphone, okay? All right, so come on out here. Okay. Good. Thank you for giving us a few minutes to share with you a glimpse of what goes on in our classroom. Tonight, I've invited a few of my students, and they'd like to share with you about our tower garden and our biodome science project.
Tonight, we will share with you all the cool stuff you would want to know about our tower garden.
Over to Melody. You guys got to be ready to pass.
We also want to make sure to tell you about our 3 main growing projects we'll be focusing on this school year. Wait, who's next? We will end by connecting the growing we're doing at school to our science lessons we've been studying in our biodome science curriculum. We hope you're a little hungry and up for a tasting adventure. We have prepared a small lettuce sampling for each of you to try and take with you as you leave tonight.
So you've already heard from my superstars. I'm going to give them just a minute to introduce themselves. Well, I guess you guys have already done that. Do you want to share with who you brought with you guys tonight? All right, so Fallon, who'd you bring here with you tonight?
I brought my grandfather, and my name is Fallon Cassiano.
And where's Grandpa at? Oh, Grandpa's right over here. Cool. And Melody, who'd you bring with you tonight?
I bought my mom, my dad, and my little brother Raul. There he is.
And Raul was one of my 1st graders a few years ago.
Hi, my name is Wallace. I brought my dad with me tonight. He's over by Cass.
And Sophia?
Hi, I'm Sophia, and I brought my mom here with me. My dad's with my brothers. Yeah.
And there they are. And there they are up there on the screen. The idea of the Tower Garden comes from wanting to give the students hands-on science every day. Outdoor space at Ames my first year was limited, so I decided to think outside the box, and I brought our garden right into our classroom. And actually, it's not in our classroom anymore. It's actually in the hallway, and we're utilizing it on the whole 2nd floor with the 5th graders and the 4th graders. So with help from Mr. Gierman, we were able to make the Tower Garden purchase. I want to recognize my 1st grade class from 2017 and 2018, which was Raul, because they were my test group. We had a lot of trial and error with our growing and our tasting projects, and now Melody is going to share with you a little bit about how our tower garden works.
Using aeroponic, which is the same technology NASA uses, our tower garden grows plants with only water and nutrients rather than dirt. Research has found aeroponic systems grow plants 3 times faster and produce 30% greater yields on average. It tastes much better, too.
After the planting of the seedlings, it's our job to monitor the garden. Each week we need to check the pH and the water level. Our pH needs to fall between 5.5 and 6.5 on the pH scale. It's also important for us to have a set schedule for the garden lights, which is 3:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. Setting the water flow schedule was done when we first planted our seedlings. The water schedule is 45 minutes with no rain and 15 minutes on. This schedule continues 24 hours.
So what I've done is I've divided our growing projects into 3 different areas. So we just finished our first growing project, which was lettuce, and then they did a write-up. And then what we'll do next is we're going to be planting basil and our garlic chives, and that'll be for our pasta lunch, and the kids will tell you about that. And that comes up, we usually do that in December. And then in March, we grow mint, and then we do shamrock shakes in the classroom. At the end of the year, we do a kind of 4th one where I let the kids explore and they get to plant what they want, and we kind of see what happens from there.
Our first growing project was the lettuce sample. We planted our seedlings in August. We recently just cut our lettuce, and each of us took home a sample that we tried. We had the freedom to taste our lettuce any way we wanted. I used my lettuce for a lunch side salad. After we tried our lettuce, we had to share a write-up about our experience. My friend Sophia is going to share her write-up.
Delicious Lettuce by Sophia Jimenez. At dinner time on Sunday, we ate my sample of lettuce. Me, my mom, and my little brother Dante were hungry. I suggested to eat the lettuce. My mom agreed, so she grabbed it from the fridge. We started to brainstorm ideas on how we can use the lettuce. We decided to do little taco wraps. My mom got cheese and turkey bites out. She put cheese on the lettuce, then put turkey bites on the cheese. Finally, wrapped the turkey and cheese in the lettuce. The lettuce was delicious. It was fresh and yummy. The reason it was fresh, it was grown inside where there were no bugs. Farmers who grow lettuce in their field need to spray their lettuce with pesticides so vegetables don't get attacked with little bugs. In our classroom, we didn't have to spray the lettuce with chemicals. I didn't like the lettuce. I loved the lettuce.
We are now getting ready to plant our basil and garlic chives. Our classmates are very excited for our pasta and garlic bread lunch in the classroom. We will chop our basil and garlic the morning of our lunch. Our room parents will help us to add the basil seasoning to our sauce and butter our bread with our garlic chives.
Our last growing project of the year will be our mint shakes. In March, we will chop the mint to add as the main ingredient in our milkshakes. Mint milkshakes. It will be a tasty and messy green day.
What's been the best part of our growing experience is how my students have really connected with what we've been doing in our science unit on biodomes. In our labs, the students had to imagine living in a biodome for 2 years. Each lab was a lot of fun. There was a lot of group collaboration and interesting discussions surrounding each lab.
In Lab 1, we had to choose 20 organisms that we would take with us inside our biodomes. All our groups chose to bring a few tower gardens with us inside.
You want to talk about this, Liam?
Yeah, sure. This is my biodome list. These are my 20 organisms. I chose to bring some tower gardens because it takes up less space than like having a farm or something. And then we brought cows, hens. We brought 2 cows, a hen and a rooster, and 2 pigs for like food and like.
Why 2 cows? You were telling me about this.
Yeah, so we could have milk and food and stuff. And then we brought a beehive to pollinate our flowers, all our plants and stuff. And yeah, that's kind of it.
All right, Melody.
In lab number 2, we created a menu of what we would eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner while living in our biodome. We had so much prior knowledge of what we could grow thanks to our tower gardens.
And here's your menu. Do you want to talk either about breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Let's see.
What did you plan for breakfast?
So, we had eggs and bacon, a biscuit, and orange juice.
All things that would be, you had just have right there in your biodome.
Yep. And for lunch, we'd have a fish salad with cherry tomatoes, croutons, cheese, and ranch. For dinner, we'd have honey barbecue ribs, corn, and a glass of milk to help you fall asleep. Who's next?
In Lab 3, we learned about what plants eat. We all knew we need plants to have a healthy ecosystem.
I'll take that really quick. I just want to share. So this is actually from one of the students in my classroom. So after we go through the labs, then they actually draw what the inside of their biodome would look like, that they'd be living in there for 2 years. And if you can kind of see back there by, what are those, the cows? You can see the tower gardens that were actually, they look just like the ones if you came into Ames hallway right now. All right, finish up.
Thank you for letting us share. We brought you a sample of our lettuce from the garden and we hope you enjoy.
And it was really cool that they came up with this at the bottom. We hope you'll let us share a sample tasting with you that we brought along. Can we pass these out? So, and please, you don't have to eat it right now, but if you want to take it with you along the way. So if you could give everybody one of the samplings, and then there's a dressing and a napkin and
Wow.
We've never gotten this before.
And while they're passing out, does anyone have any questions about our tower garden or about our biodomes? Perfect, go ahead.
So, can I ask the kids?
Yeah, well, sure, yeah.
Thank you. They're busy passing out. I just wanted to know, since you're using that pump 24 hours a day, what's your power source for the biodome?
I mean, they're passing out.
Yeah.
So it's plugged in. It's on a timer, and that's it.
Like, say you're in the biodome. Do you have solar? What are you using?
Oh, in the
In
biodome.
the biodome.
Okay, I'm like, in my hallway, I just plug it into the.
No, in the biodome. Yeah.
In the biodome, I don't know. That's actually nothing that came up in a lab. So it's a good thing. You know, I'm going to bring that back to the class tomorrow, and I'm going to say when we presented this, and we're going to watch this, we're super excited for the rest of the class. But I'll say one of the questions that came up was, how are we powering our tower gardens? There were.
Oh, they were prescribed.
Yeah.
So it said we are stocked with certain things, and we have certain preservatives and things like that.
Gotcha.
I don't know if it did talk about like if we have actually any power.
It said air and water, but I didn't see electricity.
So we'll have to go back and look, because that was back in lab 1 too.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Yep.
This is a great presentation, great project, really interesting. So I had a question. So you're on your tower gardens, you have artificial lighting, is that right? To the plants to grow.
Talk about the lighting.
Yeah. So it's so like if you go back to the drawing, can you go back to the drawing?
Anything.
The things that are hanging off are the lights, and they go on after when we're home and when we're home from school. And they actually turned on once when I was in the classroom, and they're really, really bright. And so they just turn on and off, and it's like LEDs.
Okay, so very efficient then.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you've got LED lights and you've got a pump. Those are the two?
Yes. So actually, so when we made the purchase for the tower garden, you get the tower garden, and then it comes with seeds. So our first year with Raul's class, I planted the seeds, and the kids would come in every day, and they're like, "What's going on? Nothing's growing." So I found a place in Florida that actually has seedlings. So for like $1, I can actually buy the seedlings already. So the kids already see something, and it just kind of jumpstart the process. But I put those in there, and that's what we were doing. And I was getting enough sunlight from my classroom at Ames that it was doing some growing. And then I started doing some research, and there was another purchase for the lights, and they kind of just fit right on top, and it's been awesome.
Yeah.
But they are bright, so what we do is during the day, and I found if we leave them on too long, if we have it wrong, that it will kind of wilt everything, and it was just getting too much light. So we turn them on right after we leave from school. It's on a timer, and then they'll go all night, and then they turn off right when the kids come in the morning.
Here's my question for the young scientist, and this is a question, I don't know the answer to this, and you're not going to know the answer to this probably off the top of your heads, but I think you could probably figure this out. and I'd be very interested to know the answer, which is if you calculate how much energy you use from the lights and the pump, you can calculate how much electricity you're using, right? And you know that the food you're producing has energy too, calories, right? You can calculate how much calorie there is in your lettuce. You could look at the amount of energy that you used in electricity to produce the food, and then the amount of calories, which you can convert to joules, and you can see how efficient your process is. And I'd be very interested to know the answer to that question. And I'm sure your teacher could help you with those calculations.
Like a calorimetry lab, like
You're sending us away with a project, with an experiment. I love it.
that's cool.
Well, we do. Thank you so much for letting my superstars come up here tonight, and they've been working hard on this and putting together everything. So
I have a question, but it's a lot easier.
Okay,
I just want to know if any of you or any of your classmates didn't like lettuce before, and now you like it. Did that
How
happen?
about you, Sophia? Were you all in on the lettuce?
Yeah.
Melody?
So you liked it before?
I love lettuce. I liked lettuce before, but now I like it more. Same with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I had some experience with this before, where I've received feedback from families that send me an email or a text message or something. They're like, "What are you doing in there, Mr. Becker? We have been trying to do this forever, and all of a sudden you send home this lettuce sample, and that's all they want to do is they want to eat this lettuce." Was it with the pasta lunch? Maybe, I don't know if it was with Raul, but they're like, you sprinkle a little of your basil on there, and all of a sudden he's coming home and he's like, we need to have pasta and we need to get some basil on there. So it is one of those are some cool stories too.
And it's kind of more rewarding when you grow it yourself too.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
When we actually have like, we cut it that day and we goes home, it's pretty exciting. And the smell, you get all the teachers walk in and they're like, oh, that fresh smell is pretty cool. So, all right, great job everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Fantastic.
All right, what a great group.
That's the present we ever got.
And feel free to eat your
thank you
salad
for-
if you'd like.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
Yeah, do we
Great.
need a 5-minute break for
Yeah, right.
salad, or should we continue?
We'll continue on. The other exciting thing about October is it is Principal Appreciation Month, and I have a proclamation which we won't read word for word, but I do want to ask Mr. Gierman to kind of take one for the principal team here at District 96. And yeah, right, yeah. It is, I think, as you all know, a really wonderful group of principals we have in District 96, and I just want to certainly acknowledge the tremendous efforts that they make. And this principalship is a very challenging job, also a very rewarding job, and really each and every one of them just bring a tremendous amount of passion and energy and determination and perseverance and intellect in terms of making sure that our schools have tremendous climate and culture for learning, and also just really great learning opportunities for all of our students. So Principal Appreciation Month here in October, so I wanted to make sure to acknowledge that. The other acknowledgement, and I know Mr. Lecca commented on this also, Hollywood School is 90 years old, and the PTA sponsored a 90th anniversary celebration just a couple weeks ago, but also wanted to share this with all of you, obviously, and with the community, that it's exciting to see one of our schools reach that kind of milestone. I have shared with you, and it's in the attachments here for anybody to take a look at, some District 96 history. And Ruth Julian, who's one of our library assistants here at Hauser, has also been really helpful in terms of gathering up some of our District 96 history and making it more available. But congratulations to Hollywood on 90 years. Other areas of, I believe, what'll be sort of some future congratulatory information is that our state report card, the state of Illinois, as you all know, releases a report card on all of our schools. It's something they do for all the schools in the state of Illinois. It is formally released on October 30th. I'll be releasing a communication to go along with that to make the report card available to our public, but wanted to share some information about that. The process of what gets reported in an Illinois State Report Card continues to evolve, really putting an important indicator on the academic proficiency levels that our students all attain, but really a major focus on the growth that our students experience, and acknowledging that growth in terms of their learning, as well as just an acknowledgement of student attendance, the climate and culture, sort of our financial well-being, et cetera, et cetera. So that'll all be coming out October 30th. At our November COW, we'll be talking about student achievement and our our attainment, our proficiency, and our growth in a more specific way, but wanted you all to be aware that that is coming and coming soon. And then I just had one other last item, and that was that, as you all know, we've engaged in what we call our central Hauser campus visioning process. So we hired consultants that are landscape architects and really traffic engineers, the kind of a duo team approach to looking at the exterior at Central and Hauser, just with an understanding that it's a challenging campus in terms of meeting our goals of separating play and parking and moving toward making some of the renovations that we have planned for Central School. So it was actually really a fun day last Tuesday. The Lakota group landscape architects came in and met with students across all grade levels, met with our custodians and buildings and grounds team, met with teachers, met with paraprofessionals, really kind of took a really broad look, gathered a lot of key ideas. They'll be looking at what were those common themes and then coming back to us with some design ideas and recommendations that we'll have an opportunity to look at in the future. But the kids, as you know from listening to our student presenters every month, had great ideas, and I know that we have a group of first grade students, I believe, very disappointed because I think they thought that when they shared ideas last Tuesday, we would maybe have some things done by Wednesday. And if we had it done their way, we would have zip lines really throughout the school, from the back to the front. Tube slides and zip lines were big. So we'll see what plans we're able to put together. But that'll all be forthcoming. But then again, it was really good use of, I think, everyone's time to get a lot of information, and certainly a desire to really sort of separate out where is biking, where is walking, where is parking, and improving. I think there's some opportunities to improve safety and also opportunities to improve outdoor play opportunities for our kids. So to be continued on that. And that is my superintendent's report.
Okay. Great presentation tonight. First time I've gotten food as a part of it. That's good. Okay, next is the approval of the consent agenda. So our secretary is out this evening. Our former secretary, care to pinch hit?
Tonight's consent agenda includes minutes of the previous meetings which were held. There was a closed session on September 18th. There was a regular business meeting also on September 18th, and a committee of the whole on October 2nd. There is also the personnel report and the payables pre-lists of September 30th and October 16th.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Margie, can you call the roll?
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Miller? Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, next up is the Riverside Education Council. Anything from that this evening? Okay. Next up are board member comments. Has anyone attended any D96 functions lately?
I went to the all orchestra concert at RV, and Hauser was part of that. And I'm continually impressed with the new orchestra teacher at Hauser and the RV one as well. But she's amazingly enthusiastic, and the kids were very talented. It was neat to see them with the older kids. So I'm glad they could make it over with the big kids.
No, I went to the 90th celebration that the PDA had at Hollywood. It was very nice. It was raining outside. The kids were playing outside in the rain. That didn't seem to bother them. Though I guess I would like to ask that the PTA would have been a little bit more upfront with what was going on that night, because I do feel that, when I got there, the school was locked. And everyone was at the Hollywood House. And while that was nice, the Hollywood House was very, very crowded. And so I just wish the PTA would have been a little bit more upfront with what their plans were for that night. But overall, the event was very nice. The kids had fun. It was a great celebration, and it was good seeing that memorabilia.
It's been a couple weeks now, but I attended the outdoor festival at Blythe Park a couple weeks back. I don't know, were you at that earlier?
Run.
Yeah. The Rainbow Run, yes, thank you. Yes, it's a lot of fun, a lot of laundry.
That's
Rainbow
why I
Run.
leave. No.
Yeah, I guess the idea of the Rainbow Run, you have kids in white T-shirts running around and they get colored dye thrown on them. Usually washes out. Definitely a lot of fun though. A lot, and we were gathering occurred till pretty much after dark. They had to round out the last folks there at the playground. So everybody was having a great time, and the kids were enjoying themselves, and it was a good day. All right. If there are no other board comments, we'll move on to committee reports. First up is the policy committee.
Nothing now, but I'm still waiting for that tsunami of policies to be coming. So.
Okay. Next is the facilities committee.
The subset of the facilities committee received through, sorry, lost my words, facilitated by Ramesh at Vistara, the evaluations of the construction managers, and then we interviewed the 3 shortlisted construction managers on the 24th of the month, and selected one, and that contract will be up for approval in our old business section. The architect's plans for the rest of our facilities are being worked on as we speak, and so we are continuing to move forward with the facilities plan, and at this point it's more in the detail phase than any grand changes to concepts.
All right. And next is the finance committee.
Nothing to report right now. I think at our next meeting, I anticipate that Mr. Fitton will have a draft of the levy for us to look at. But other than that, I don't think there's anything right now.
Okay. Moving on to the personnel committee.
Personnel committee has not had any activity since the last time we met, but we are organizing ourselves to meet again soon.
Okay. And finally, the education committee.
I don't have a full report, but the last time we all met, we had a goals discussion, so we'll continue that talk tonight about what our academic goals are. Very similar to last year, but we'll be talking about more specifics. And then achievement next month, as Martha mentioned. So that's always kind of a long one, but it's extremely valuable and useful. So assuming we get all the data in properly.
We'll move on to old business. The first item in old business is the approval of construction manager agreement with Birdland Construction Company. Is there a motion to approve the construction manager agreement with Birdland Construction Company?
So moved.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion?
What I'd like to do is introduce Ramesh Nair, who will kind of give you a quick overview of the process. Joel talked a bit about it, but give you a bit more detail, and then introduce you to Birdland Construction.
As Joel mentioned, we received 5 proposals on the 24th of September. And we met in committee on the 27th, and from the 5 firms, we shortlisted 3 firms, which was IHC, Bulleen Andrews, and Birdland Construction. We met each of the firms on October 3rd in the afternoon. They presented to us, and we made a selection soon after that, and the committee decided unanimously to go with Birdland Construction Company. I would like to introduce Birdland, and that team is here today. Tom.
On behalf of Birdland Construction, my name is, first of all, I'd like to introduce our team that's here today. First of all, I'm Tom Szynski. I'm Senior Vice President at Birdland Construction. And we're very elated. We're very excited about your project. We've got Matt Hutchinson, who is going to be our project manager that'll be working on the project. And then we also have Steve Nyblum. He's going to be one of the project superintendents that'll also be working in the field and coordinating all the subcontractors that are out in the field as well. So we're very happy to be on board, and we look forward to a really great project coming up this spring here. Thank you.
So we're going to be in a fairly fast-track process over the next couple of months, getting to the guaranteed maximum price, which should be coming sometime in middle of January. But we have some ideas of how to try and speed up the process because we have a fairly tight schedule to deliver the schools by mid-August of next year.
Just a question about the structure of the agreement. I'm not in construction, so I don't understand the ins and outs. But just can you explain to us, like, it looks like there's a part of the agreement that's a sort of a fixed fee.
Yes.
And then there's a part that's a percentage of the construction. Can you explain exactly how that's structured there?
So when we went out for with the RFP, the idea was to qualify the construction manager and to set the fee structure. So for example, there's a pre-construction set of services. That means between now and before construction starts, Birdland has a fixed cost for their work. Plus, once construction starts, there are two major components that we have, which are normally in flux if you go with the general contracting process. What we have out there is the fixed fee that Birdland will charge us for the sum of all the subcontracts that they receive. So for example, I'm just going to take a number. If there's $1 million in subcontracts, Birdland's fee is 2.75% of that. So we know that number up front. That's the first part. And the second part is the general conditions that they're going to incur. That's essentially the contractor's overhead. That's the superintendent, his trailers, his temporary facilities. We already have the cost up front. We have collected that number. It's not a moving target. So the moving target essentially will be the guaranteed maximum price, which is the sum of the approved subconsultants plus the 3% that he tacks on, makes a big bucket of funds that we will be working on.
Can you talk about the considerations for change orders?
Yes. So even in one of the sections in the bid form that we received, there are two parts of it. If Birdland self-performs the work, there's a certain fee that they charge.
Right.
If it's a subcontractor who performs the work, there's a certain fee. But those fall well within the parameters that we had set.
Okay.
That's why we are requesting approval of that.
Okay, thank you.
But in a guaranteed maximum price, there will be really no change orders unless the scope changes,
Right.
because they've already bid the number to a given scope.
As the project moves forward, can you explain a little bit how Birdland and you and the architect and the district as the owner potentially can interact?
Right. So, starting fairly soon, we're going to have weekly meetings as to what's happening, how we're going to get from one point on, because there are multiple milestones, there are multiple projects. Each one has a different start date. They all finish at the same time. So what happens is my firm is in charge of coordinating those meetings. So we collect the entire team, the design team, the construction team. We make sure that they are going as per schedule, because there's going to be a master schedule that will be published, which Birdland's going to put out, and we're going to be making sure that we meet the milestones that are there. So for example, we may have bid packages for underground work. There may be a bid package for structural steel. So there may be a bid package for superstructure. There may be a bid package for finishes. So each of those milestones need to be met. And part of the issue is if Birdland has issues, they come to us, they discuss it, we meet them in the field on a weekly basis, sometimes even more than that. And if there's any financial issues that need to be discussed, we bring it to the board, we discuss that issues. So there's a lot of coordination that's going to take place between now and the final delivery of the project. So essentially, we are going to be your eyes and ears out here on a daily basis. I'll have my project managers out here who'll be working with them to make sure that work flows in sequence and the delivery takes place on time. And then, for example, even the monthly pay requests that come in. So we'll walk with DLA to confirm that the work that's being placed out there matches what Birdland's asking for in a fee. And there's a 10% retention that takes place on that, which is held in reserve till the end of the project, and we release that only towards the end. So that's part of the signature that we'll be handling on the project.
So the guaranteed maximum fee, that's determined some point in the future when we have more information about the different costs? Is that how that
Correct.
works?
So once the 100% construction documents are released, Birdland will go out and solicit bids for the subconsultants. So once that happens, now there's a certain requirement that we have in the RFP that be done in public.
Okay.
So they cannot just go to their favorite subconsultants. It has to be a public bid. So once they receive the bids, those bids are actually read out in public. It has to be opened and delivered. They will go and vet all the subcontractors and come back to us and say, we recommend that you hire this mechanical, this electrical, this mason. They can choose to self-perform some works too, but there's a maximum percentage that they can do, okay? And then once we get that information, we bring it back to the board for approval. And once the board approves it, it gets reassigned to Birdland to complete the work.
Yeah.
And then you're also, at the same time, you're looking at the work DLA is doing and
That's
verifying the progress
So
of
for example,
their work.
the design development documents that came from DLA, we sent back comments, we did an independent estimate on it, we had some concerns with the work that was done. So Steve's group has been working with us to get that done. Then there are certain other elements, for example, we have a ComEd relocation that we need of the utilities at Ames. So we have already jump-started that process. In fact, we just got a very favorable reply from ComEd just this week indicating that they have opened a project in the name of the Ames School utility relocation. We're working with Birdland and with DLA to make sure that schedule happens and it's put into our master schedule.
Are there any other utility issues that you think are currently high priority, or
No,
everything
not
else
really.
is just average?
Most of them are average because we're going to be using existing utilities in the case of Blythe and Hollywood. It's nothing that's major. The biggest one at Central for the elevator, the engineer checked it. He said there's enough power in the existing panel that we can use. So we just have to route it through the building, but we don't need a power service upgrade.
Which saves time and money.
Oh, yes.
Okay, any additional questions? Ramesh, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Margie, can you call the roll?
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, next up are the district goals for 2019 and 2020. No?
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Yep.
that's okay. I was thinking I thought we skipped one, but we didn't. Yeah.
So this is our, we had a fairly robust conversation at our last committee of the whole meeting.
So really quickly, we need
Oh.
to make the motion.
We should motion, yes. Sorry about that.
Right.
All right.
Potential, so are we going to vote on it tonight?
Potentially.
Oh, but you don't have, to- if the motion's made, you can.
to act on it. It depends on how your conversation goes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
All right, then is there a motion to approve the district goals for 2019, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
All right, let's have a discussion.
That's where I'll jump in. So this is our next iteration after our conversation at the committee of the whole meeting. There was a desire to sort of obviously make them more measurable, where we could make them more measurable, to add some clarity, add some detail. So you'll see where they are modified, and then there were actually two very recent modifications just today, and those are in blue, specifically about parent and community information sessions, and about a ISB financial profile score of 4, which would put us in a financial recognition category. It's one of the metrics around measuring kind of that solid fiscal position goal.
Sort of talking about the goals themselves, I want to thank Martha for spending some time to reformat this because it's now, I think, much clearer what are the goals and what are the actions that we're going to take to try to achieve the goals. So I think that this is a much better format, so I appreciate that you took the time to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Team effort.
Any other discussion?
Yeah. We wish to vote on this tonight?
Yes.
So
Okay.
I know.
I have one question. I was just going to ask about, because I just was reading this yesterday, so I'm still absorbing because it was quick. The student learning area for the last bullet item. Continue to refine social emotional learning strategies while ensuring the use of inclusive practices. I noticed the addition of inclusive practices. Can you talk more about that, please?
Sure. So we felt it was important to really identify inclusivity as one of our goals. And if you recall, I had it more under climate and culture.
Right. That's why I was just wondering what.
We've moved social emotional learning. I mean, social emotional learning is one of those that is climate and culture, and it's a key learning area. So felt that the inclusive practices sort of fit better how it's worded here. Inclusive practices, I think, speak to many layers of our work. It's certainly making sure that all children feel engaged, connected, included in terms of having those trusted adults as well as valuable peer groups. And I think for us, inclusive practices is everything from children with special needs feeling very included in the school environment to making sure that children who represent different religions, different ethnicities, different races, different sexual orientation, et cetera, feel that they have every same opportunity, that they don't feel that there's any sort of negative commentary, et cetera. So again, really felt that in terms of just some of the goals and priorities, values, interests of really the district, that the word inclusive mattered and seemed to be a good fit in that
Yeah,
area.
I was just trying to figure out whether we put it twice or.
I moved it from climate and culture to student learning.
I kind of feel like it's a climate issue also, though. I wonder.
Yeah, I mean, it is both. It's hard.
I know. I was thinking
social
more,
emotional
rather
learning,
than
yeah.
I know this one's
Yeah.
an individual student issue. I was just running more on a global scale.
I mean, I'm comfortable saying it twice or saying it in both areas. Adding a bullet would really be a bullet under the student experience as well as the wording that we had before was like refine the practices. You know, sort of look at inclusive practices that improve the overall school environment.
Right.
Something to that effect.
Okay. Thank you. I was just trying to sort that out.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So if we make that change, then we're not voting on it tonight?
We could move that we with the addition of that change,
Yes.
approve that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a large change. It's just
Yeah, but
something I
it's
noticed.
I'm comfortable with adding it in both places.
All right.
Yeah, I was just going to say, though, I really appreciate the meeting the last time, and I hope as a board we make that a priority to keep doing, because I thought it was really valuable.
I totally agree with it. I think that kind of discussion, we don't have enough of those.
Yeah. No. Right. And I think we need to make, I know our
We need to
summers
make a
were
summer
busy,
date.
so we need to, this year, we are
4th of July.
Yes.
Well,
We will
even
do
if,
it.
even if we do them sort of intermittently and always do them every 3 or 4 months, we have a shorter discussion on that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. That was a great discussion we had last time. The product of it, I think, as a result of that, it shows the value of that discussion.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, should we move to approve the district goals with the changes mentioned?
Yes.
We have a motion.
We have the motion.
Second.
All right. All right. Let's see. Margie, can you call the roll?
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Marhold?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, next is the early learners tuition increase. Is there a motion to approve the early learners tuition increase as presented?
So moved. Second.
Margie, can you call the roll?
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Motion carried.
And next, I don't think we're looking to approve the agreement tonight, correct? Are we just having a discussion on that?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, then so next is the Village of Riverside Intergovernmental Agreement Security Camera Relay Update.
So, at our last meeting, we did just, you all had asked for an annual review of our intergovernmental agreement. So we had this on our review cycle. This is not a very old agreement to begin with. What I had shared is that the security camera relay device has not been placed on Hauser School, and so you all had asked for an update on that. I did talk to the village manager in Riverside, and it appears to be really a financial decision. They don't anticipate moving forward with the security camera relay. I think it's really an extension of their network of security cameras throughout the village. They don't anticipate doing that in this fiscal year. So for them, that could mean January of 2020, and they're really not sure, from my understanding, about the next steps and when they would be coming forward and asking us to place that. So this had also been something that I know there'd been a fair amount of question about when we last talked about it. So again, I just wanted to let you know that it's kind of in a holding pattern in terms of our intergovernmental agreement.
Would it be sensible then if we were to table that part until we actually know that they have a plan? Because I don't really feel comfortable having an agreement about something that's not going to take place in the near future.
Right, so I think what we would do is potentially at a next meeting is look to terminate the agreement.
Right.
If that was something that the board was interested in opening up for discussion.
No, I would agree with Sherry. I'm uncomfortable leaving sort of an open-ended agreement, especially when things seem to be influenced at the village level. They don't know what their intentions, their plans are. It'll be, if it does go happen move forward next year, it'll be almost 2 years old. So I do think we can revisit it if they do decide to pursue it, but I feel uncomfortable leaving a sort of an agreement out there that which could be which seems to have changed from when it was originally presented.
And my understanding is procedurally we would terminate it versus table it, but I could certainly look into that to make sure I understand both aspects.
It's fine for me to terminate it and then revisit it when they actually have a proposal that's specific.
I definitely agree with what's been said. At the same time, I worry some about legal expenses that have already been made for this, as well as legal expenses should this come back up for review again, especially if it's in the near future. And I guess that would give me a little bit of pause for terminating it, but it also makes me wonder, what is that impact, I guess? Is it minimal? Probably so. Or
in terms of legal fees?
Mm-hmm.
I would expect that the fees should be minimal unless there's a major change to what's been proposed.
Right, there shouldn't be any fees, I would think, unless we change the contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, so there was some legal review of the actual agreement, but if we were to terminate,
have to have the lawyer look at it anyway, so, because it would agree with the current agreement anyway.
Okay.
So we can bring that back for potential action then at the next meeting.
All right. Then the next item is the Hollywood Citizens Association Property Counterproposal. So is there any discussion about the proposal?
I think it's great that we are continuing discussions with HCA, and HCA has reached out back to us. I think I'm hoping that we're going to have some quality discussion at the end of October, because there are some very different ideas about what could be done or which section of property is in question or up to be available. But I think a community meeting will certainly help to define that, and I would anticipate that we'll come to a conclusion fairly soon so that the rest of Hollywood, the rest of the Hollywood improvements can continue to move forward on the schedule with the rest of our facilities plan.
No, I would echo what Joel said. I'm glad that they finally come forward with a proposal. I do have some questions. I just sort of I'd like to know, hopefully they can, at the meeting forum, explain why it's now why they're willing to give us
West side versus
the west side versus the east side, because before they told us that the east side would be, that they would be open to giving us that. So I don't know what changed. I also sort of would like to make sure that when we talk about like the shared space, like the parking lot, I do want to make sure that we can make sure that the school does have use for that, because I know right now Young Life does go there during the day. I mean, I've seen them go there, especially when kids are leaving, parking their cars, and what have you. So I just want to make sure that the kids are safe, that we don't have cars coming in when kids are going out.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of these are important details that need to be agreed on, but they seem like the opening's been made and we've got some opportunity.
Exactly.
And as David said, the west side versus the east side is really important, and that really impacts our continuing planning, and we're about to see MOU with DLA for playground design at Hollywood, and we can't move forward with that playground design until we know which pieces ultimately what's going to be available.
So I look forward to the 30th.
Yeah.
Yes.
We look forward to that. There were some stipulations in their offer, particularly around kind of a veto power over the fencing and wanting to move the playground at the end of the playground and the equipment at the end of the lease. It's definitely something we'd have to have further discussions on. I also been curious, and I know there's been some emails and some background about, I think the initial thought was that our architects weren't crazy about the different side of the property, and maybe having an additional look at it. Things are changing a little bit on that.
Sure. So we have taken some initial look, have had some preliminary conversations with the Village of Brookfield. Our requirements are to make sure that we meet some green space ratios. I think it would look like potentially we're putting the playground in essentially the same spot that it's in, maybe some extension or some expansion of that. That's something we'd have to look at. It does put then an open play area, grassy play area, right up at a corner, which had been one of our questions, one of our concerns. We think probably with the appropriate type of fencing that's an obstacle that we can address in terms of student safety. Again, sort of that perhaps ideal sense that children would have kind of sort of been able to move right out of the multi-purpose room, which is where they would eat lunch, right onto the playground that was, again, right up next to the building. Again, we think we could make some adjustment with kind of a walkway, maybe some additional, something that identifies that as a perimeter, whether it's bushes or low fencing or something. That would be yet to be determined. But again, I think it changes where we were thinking, but it still seems feasible and
Still
doable.
fits within our ultimate goals, and that's certainly what we're collaborating.
Right. I mean, our goals have been, as Joel alluded to, to be able to build that addition, to have that multi-purpose room, to address the enrollment and just the programming needs, secure the front office, and then just add more clarity to that separation of play and parking, not having the children playing between the parked cars. So I think this could do that.
And with the plans that we're looking at right now, are we looking at a net gain of spaces, or we're holding neutral, or?
I think it's actually more leased property. It's different, so the grassy area to the west side is an area that we sometimes play on if we have, let's say, a special event where we have a lot of parents there to sort of supervise and interact with the students, but it's not an area that we typically use, so it becomes an opportunity to more typically use more space.
Right, but I mean, it should be also pointed out that what was proposed, we do not have enough, we still don't have enough parking on campus.
Right.
We have to find street parking.
So I think in that context, I think it still behooves us. I know that Brookfield was not keen from Martha's discussions on the offer that they initially made for the land up by the zoo. But I still think that we should, not take that entirely off the table on our side, and we should, introduce that in our meeting on the 30th with the community, see how much interest there is there, and then the street parking, and maybe between the two of them we can eliminate parking entirely from Hollywood Street.
I would agree with you, Jeff. I know there's some hesitations about that property. Brookfield has that property, but I do not think we should take that off the table because I do think that's an extremely viable option and something that we should seriously consider if it's something we can do.
It's viable to us, I guess, but it does take two to tango.
Well, it's going to take. We still need to get village approval for this because we've got to put those additional cars someplace. So.
And there has been some preliminary discussion with the village about allowing us to have a limited number, but we believe likely a sufficient number of street parking right in front of the school. They'd be like a teacher placard marked spaces that would probably say parking from something like 7:30 to 4:30. Again, just designated for Hollywood school teachers to be able to park there for the entire day. So we could have some parking on the current parking lot, no playing in between the parked cars, configure it, stripe it appropriately. Right now we kind of park sometimes where there aren't stripes and then have some street parking. But you're right, it's a collaboration between the village, between the HCA, obviously the district, and same would be with the village property near the zoo.
We need to keep in mind here is that this is going to be a quasi-permanent arrangement.
Right.
And it's going to affect a lot of kids over the next, 40, 50 years. So we should really take our time to make sure that we have explored all the options and we really have come to the best possible arrangement for everyone. Because it is going to affect a lot of people, and it is something you can't go back in 5 years and say, "No, we want to do it differently." So I really do think we should explore options, even if they don't, even if we're meeting some resistance, from different quarters. So.
So we just had one new business.
All right, so then we'll move on to new business. We have as Joel mentioned, we have the MOU for the playground design at Ames in Hollywood.
Right, so this is new business discussion. Happy to, respond to questions or take questions back to DLA Architects. This is specifically about the Ames and Hollywood school play areas. Blythe, we know, already has a designated play area, and Central, the solution for Central will really come through that campus visioning process with Lakota and Gewalt Hamilton. So there's really a different process in place, just given the complexities around the Central Hauser campus that we just talked about earlier. So this is Ames in Hollywood, and it really is something that we need to be moving on sooner rather than later, because it's the site planning, and again, speaking to that, the proposal from the HCA does determine the site of the playground. Ames, the site planning is different because it's really where the construction and what spaces are going to be designated for us. But there are decisions about soft surface and hard surface and what kinds of surfaces. Then eventually we get to the tube slides and the zip lines. But but right now it's really laying out the appropriate sites and the site materials and beginning to make those plans.
Yeah. I guess I'm a little confused on why the playground work wasn't included in DLA's original proposal for Ames. Hollywood is a separate issue because that's new property that we didn't have before, but it would seem that the Ames work should have been included already, since it's the entire site and they knew that they were working on play space. We have designated spaces in their plan for play.
Yeah, and those will stay the designated spaces. What the determinations that haven't been made would be things like the type of surface that we want to have.
When they presented to us first, when we first hired them, that or around that time, maybe it wasn't that meeting, that they told us they were not experts in playground design, and that they typically subcontracted that to other groups. So has that changed, or why are we now talking to them about this rather than a separate group?
So you have to, what I've learned is you have to start somewhere, and you have to get the clear layout, and then I think you do subcontract to Game Time or a New Toys or there are the consultants that come forward and help you talk about the right equipment, slide swings, that kind of thing. But there is a construction element or a design element around where to place it, making sure it fits with an understanding of all the underground utilities, potentially drainage issues, obviously. So what I have learned is that school districts often work with their architectural firm There are playground cooperatives that have design sort of services also. And again, we're not even talking yet about the equipment pieces to that. So as I did research and sort of found that, again, there are sort of layers and complexities to all of it, to me it makes sense to work with DLA as our partner. And I do sort of envision that they would then move us toward working with somebody that would help us manage the equipment decisions. But we're really talking about right now the layout and the areas for outdoor play, outdoor learning.
I do have a concern about the equipment. I know we've had presentations before from, catalogs and providers of equipment, and it's a piece that you put on, and I'm hoping we can have a little bit more creative vision than that, and I'm hoping the administration can give us some more tools for creativity in our design, including student and...
There are a lot of companies that are really innovative and really interesting playground equipment that is not just your plastic jumbled gym.
My only concern
crap
with that is the DLA is saying they're not playground experts. Would they know these kinds of different options, which I haven't heard them talk about before. So it's a question I have.
We can certainly bring DLA back to a future meeting to answer questions that you might have, and then that can even be potentially get November COW just to continue.
Yeah, I think that'd be very interesting because there are, like, even when it comes to the space layout. I mean, I know, like, I was reading about one company that makes these very tall towers of like a rope kind of system where kids can climb, and it's quite high actually. It's very safe. The way they've designed it is very safe, so if the kid does fall, they're not going to hit the ground. They're going to hit some net or something like that. But what the argument was is that we've taken a lot of the perceived danger out of playground equipment so that kids don't feel like they're in danger, and that's not a challenge to them, so they tend to easily grow out of that, and so they're not getting the use that they should be getting. And so a lot of these companies are thinking very carefully about how to design things that are challenging, still safe, but are not just your standard. So I think if we're going to do this, we should really explore those things.
Yeah. I actually met with somebody today who studied adventure playgrounds. I didn't know that was the term, but I think it's really kind of the term that you're talking about, sort of this concept of, I don't want to call it unsafe play, but it's,
That's right.
Yeah, it's more of a concept that's come out of some European countries and a small handful of playgrounds like that in the United States. So, but I think, again, where I see is like it's starting with, there's a hesitation to move forward with all the construction until we know exactly where the playgrounds would also be laid out. And I agree, it seems sort of implicit, I guess, in the Ames plan. But there are questions. So when you look at even just the MOU that they've laid out here, speaks to the stormwater and the zoning, the soil boring, Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, et cetera. So those are things to me that have to happen before we get to decide about towers and structures.
And some of those issues may be more aimed at Hollywood because the stormwater issue is already in our design agreement for Ames. So that's where this is less understandable as an agreement because it doesn't specifically say what's aimed at Hollywood versus Ames.
And we would really look to engage the community, right? So I use the example that we just talked about with the visioning group with the Central and Hauser students, right? So when we're getting to what really goes on top of the ground, we want to look at a variety of options. I certainly heard that from all of you. We want to hear from students. We want to hear from parents. We want to hear from our staff. But I do feel a certain pressure to say, where's it going to be and what kind of materials are we potentially going to be putting as, there are requirements about fall zones. And again, the more, like with everything, you look into it and it's not as simple as putting up the backyard swing set. We know that. So I think
hope we wouldn't want that anyway.
Yeah.
Do you think this November 19 presentation for committee and board is viable?
Yeah, what I think I'll do is I'll reach out to DLA and ask if they could come to November COW, and that way then it could be
because they've got
discussion
it says right here, board presentation November 2019, and I'm wondering how that will happen.
I guess before we start going down that path, I guess I have a question. I'm looking at these dates, and they're October, November, and Hollywood's part of this. We don't even know what we're doing with Hollywood
Right,
yet.
I don't know how that's possible.
I mean, my thought is, quite frankly, we should probably take Hollywood out of this. I don't want to take Hollywood out of this because we need to move forward, but at the same token, if we say we don't know where we're putting the playground, we don't have an agreement with the HCA, we don't have an agreement with Brookfield. I mean, my thought is whatever we do for Hollywood right now could very well change. And my guess is will likely change. And so, I mean, I'm wondering if we can reduce the cost by taking, how much would we be saving if we take Hollywood out of this agreement? Just because, I mean, I think we're putting the cart before the horse on this one, especially with Hollywood.
Well,
Or can we just adjust the schedule?
not so much.
Yeah, or can we adjust the schedule?
Yeah, that could make sense.
I just don't see how November is possible.
Right, yeah, I
More
don't,
on my-
it's not going to be
Schedule
possible.
may vary at the bottom.
I totally get that.
But we have a construction
you know.
contract approval in January of
Right.
next year. We're still not, I mean, we're not going to be
Then
ready.
we have a construction management firm that's saying, where's your playground going to be and
That's
what
right.
surfaces?
Exactly,
You know,
yeah.
so, right,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I look at it and think, it sounds like there are questions that I think DLA would best answer, and perhaps an adjustment to the timing. And that, you know,
But I mean, to make clear, if for some reason Hollywood doesn't come to pass, are we spending any money on it that, you know, are we committing money that we can't take back?
yeah.
It may be best simply to work with and change the timeline that it actually shows two timelines. One that's aimed at Hollywood, assuming certain things work out, and then Ames is a little bit more of a known.
Right, so leave the Ames timeline and then just have Hollywood say, depending on the superintendent's sort of go ahead to start.
But then what I would suggest, just given the flux of Hollywood and how long this has dragged on, I'd almost recommend that we put out two quotes then, one for Ames and one for Hollywood, so that if we don't do Hollywood, or Hollywood for some reason or another is postponed another year, that,
Yeah, I'd be fine with that, as long as we get the same price, the same aggregate price.
I mean,
I'd be interested to hear, and perhaps that's a question we can ask them in November, of why they wanted to include them both in one, and is there any difference in cost if we separate them?
I have a question about Ames in general. With I know we were talking about that we don't know from the Water Reclamation District people the entire scope because we don't yet know. This is my understanding, maybe I'm incorrect, about what parameters we're going to need for drainage. Is that still true for the drawings that we have, or are we?
I think we do know a lot more about drainage. There's been conversation, I know, with Metropolitan Water Reclamation District on it. I don't know sort of final determinations.
Right. I'm
yet.
wondering, like, you know, do they actually know the specifics for that playground area as well, or that's the question?
Well, and what I'm learning is there's, you know, the permeable, semi-permeable,
Yes,
and
but it was a
impermeable,
matter of how
and
much square foot,
Right,
square footage,
right,
and
right.
I wanted to know if we had any more detail on that, because that was the last time we asked Ramesh, it was kind of like, well, they're still talking.
Yeah, I think we probably do know more because the engineers have certainly been studying that. So again, bringing that
That would be
information
helpful for
forward.
us to hear about.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to make a determination if we don't know what our parameters are.
So it sounds like more discussion, and I think it would be best, what I'll do is suggest a DLA could come to November Cal.
As long as we're not, I mean, my only concern with Ames is that we're holding the process up, you know?
oh yeah, no, we shouldn't be holding it.
Well, we're going to continue with Ames right now.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
so,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we
I
would, so what, so we're not waiting for them to come to November to have this discussion again with them?
No, Ames we would do vote on next time, right? Is that right?
So we'd have a different
Correct,
MOU?
it's new business.
I think,
Just
right,
just strike
because
out
talking
the-
about a cow doesn't really stop us from potential action, but what I hear is a couple questions is, should we separate out the two, Hollywood and Ames? And I did talk to DLA about that, and certainly there's that sense of sort of a shared project has a better economy of scale, but if we honestly don't know where the playground's going to be, and there is an open question. It's the other reason I think DLA is a good partner with us, because they understand the complexities of what we're trying to solve, and I think when we do solve it, then hopefully we'd be able to move quickly, right, in terms of the area that we pick for
They
the
could even
playground.
leave it in the same MOU and simply break the prices into here's what you're paying for Ames and here's what you're paying for
And
Hollywood.
to be honest, there's no economy of scale here. They're totally different places, totally different. You know what I'm saying? It's like, there's no, the price should be the same.
My only concern is I don't want to wait for the November cow to talk about this MOU again, and then we have another month, and then.
Yeah, no, we should proceed with Ames,
I don't think that would be necessary.
So the idea is that we're going to be approving something at the next,
November board.
Yeah, we should be able to get a revision.
so that this process can.
Right, but they're going to be, there's there going to be a cow though first and then a board meeting? So.
Right, so
Yes.
if, let's say, the questions could be answered sufficiently at the cow meeting, and whether or not that then makes a determination that we're going to just look at an Ames MOU, or we know enough that we could plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's
for Hollywood.
Fair enough. Yeah. I agree with you, Linda. I don't want to slow Ames.
No, I don't think any of us want to slow.
No, I think we're going.
Exactly.
We wanna, and I know DLA knows that too. And
Right.
Yeah, but Jeff is absolutely right. They never touted themselves as playground architects. So, I'm happy to hear more.
Perhaps that's a question as well as who are their subcontractors. Okay. Next item is public comment and response. At this time, are there any additional public comments? Okay, if not, future meeting dates. We have a special meeting on October 30th at Hollywood School at 7:30. November 6th is the Committee of the Whole meeting at 7 p.m., also at Hollywood. November 20th is the regular business meeting at 7 p.m. at the Hauser Learning Center. December 2nd is a special meeting at 6 p.m. at the Hauser Learning Center as well. December 4th, Committee of the Whole at Ames. December 18th is a regular business meeting at 7 p.m. at Hauser. So, at this time, I think we still have items left over from our previous closed session, so I believe we're considering going back into closed session without action to follow. Is there a motion to go back in?
I think you have to read the reason, which would just...
Do I? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, you're right. Okay, so enter into closed session for the purchase or lease of real property for the
We
use...
just have to read the last one.
Just the last one?
Yeah.
Okay, security. Okay, security procedures, school building, and safety and security, and the use of personnel and equipment to respond to an actual, a threatened, or a reasonably potential danger to the safety of employees, students, staff, the public, or the public property.
So moved.
Second.
Margie, can you call the roll?
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Marhold?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Motion carried.